Alrighty then. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Rabbit Hole. With me, I have Canuck, of course, one of my favorite friends, who is digging deep down the rabbit hole with me, and I look forward to tonight's discussion. This is pre-recorded, so be aware of that. I will be online with y'all. Canuck has to do some work. So we're going to do this a little bit earlier, and that's going to be kind of our normal thing, I hope, because rabbit holes kicked the crap out of me. I'm so drained for a couple of days, and I think for him too, because it's late for him. But tonight, we're going to talk about the mystery of the Cascades. Everybody says the world is coming to an end, and it's going to start with the Cascades. But is it? I think we're going to look into something pretty interesting, and we're going to run through several 100 years of data and we're going to try to bring it in a little bit concise for you and tell you and kind of show you what the pattern persists in the Cascades, and that over 2,700 years, there's a pretty good record of what happens, and we're going to kind of piece it up a little bit for you and try to dispel some of the darkness and maybe make more of it than there is. I don't know. Good evening, Canuck. How are you, buddy?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Cool. We're going to get right into it. So with the first article in Science Daily, dated August 29, 2025, this is the latest article that I've seen talking about the Cascades and the hidden dangers. It's called "The Mysterious Earthquake Reveals Cascadia's Hidden Dangers." And it was written by the Seismological Society of America on that date, August of 25. And I'll read the summary, and I'll let Canuck jump on shore with it, and he'll tell us what he's gleaned from it. In 1954, a powerful earthquake shook northern California near Humboldt Bay, baffling scientists for decades. Most quakes in the region come from the Gorda Plate, but this one didn't. Not at all. It didn't fit the pattern at all either. After digging through old records, modern models, and eyewitness accounts, researchers now believe the quake originated on the Cascadia subduction interface, the same fault that is capable of producing catastrophic megaquakes, just like what happened over in Japan, and just like what happened over now recently in Kamchatka, and what happened in 92 down in Indonesia, and in Chile in 1960, right? And in Alaska in 1964. These megaquakes. That's the subject here, the megaquakes, and what is really going on. So, with that being said, Canuck, I'll turn it over to you and on this article and what you gleaned from it, and if you want to read parts of it, you're more than welcome. I just read the summary.
So that's like the latest one that just came out, about 54. But we're going to be looking at two other quakes as well as 54. In 1873, there was a big one there, and also 92 there was as well. And if you look at the latest studies on all those three quakes, they now say that they were Cascadia going off with sevens.
Oh. What makes it a Cascadia quake versus a non-Cascadia quake?
They're going to explain that when we get into it, because they show where it was in comparison to like where the slab is.
Okay. Because
it has to do with the location and the depths.
Mm-hmm.
If it's part of the actual slab. And that's so they're taking all the historical data from all this stuff and then going back and using a bunch of different things to determine if it was actually a Cascadia quake or not. Now they're focusing on the biggest ones.
All right, so that's good, because it's less earthquakes to have to deal with.
Because there's probably other ones too that are sixes, but for the purpose of what we're doing with this one, we want to show that Cascadia has actually gone off with at least 3 sevens that we know of.
All right.
Since 1873.
Okay.
Because they already know, primarily when they're looking at the turbidite stuff, it has to be big enough to create a turbidite. So that would mean it would have to be 7+.
Okay, what's a turbidite?
A turbidite is a layer of sediment that's either in a lake or offshore in the water, like where the trenches are and the things that go out.
Okay. Like that washes or whatever.
Yeah, like a canyon or underwater canyon.
Like a fluvial plain or something. The turbidites get kind of put in there.
Yeah, and when there's a big earthquake, stuff rolls down it,
Okay.
and then you can see it at the bottom in the sediments where it all is. It's the same as like how they do the tsunami ones on land, the tsunami sediments.
Okay.
So they take like a core sample of it, or they can go in at from the side and see all the different levels, and you can see when there's different turbidites, they call them, because it's like perturbance or whatever in the water makes, or shaking causes it to have stuff to roll down, and you get different layers of the sediment record. And that's what they're basing it on. So it has to be something that's big enough to create a displacement of sediment underwater. And that's how they figure this out. And then they look at them, and then they see, like right now, what they're doing, and all over different places now, because they're checking in lakes and trying to match it with the ones offshore to see if the layers match. So then they match them up with events.
Okay.
And that's how they do it, and figure out what the approximate date was of a quake. Of course, in more recent times, it's easier to do it, but you can get like the exact date, like right down to the day. But when you're going back farther in time, they just know in general what year it was. And they're doing it with the turbidites back as far as 10,000 years. But then they break it down farther, because some of these new studies, they've broken it down more, so it's like the last 2,700 years.
Right.
So they're doing this all over, so they keep like checking different lakes. Like they're doing it in Southern California now, both offshore and inland, to try and find out how many times the Southern San Andreas has gone off, for example. So that's what they're working on now. I haven't seen any new stuff come out on that yet, but they've been working on it at least for 2 or 3 years. And it's Goldfinger and all these other people that are
Right.
like Goldfinger's the main one. So these quakes that we're talking about today, it used turbidites to figure these out and a bunch of other things. But turbidites is just like the latest thing that they're using. But
turbidites. I'm gonna look that up. Turbidites. I may spell it wrong.
Because it stirred up
Turbidites are sedimentary deposits that form turbidity currents, which are fast-moving underwater flows of sediment and water that occur on slopes in the ocean or deep lakes. These currents are often triggered by underwater landslides or earthquakes. As the current slows down, it deposits its sediment in karstic sequence, with coarser materials settling faster, followed by finer materials like silt and mud, creating the distinct layers known as a turbidite. Oh, I always thought it was, and I have an image for you, but I always thought it was kind of...
because they drill into it to get the core, and then they look at the levels in it. That's how they do it.
All right.
So they go out there with a ship, and then they go down to it where all these canyons are with a drill.
So here is flowing down into the deeper parts, and here are the currents on the flows. This is geology is the way. Turbidite currents under gravity flow triggered mobilization of sediments on the slope, right? So the debris flows are underneath the turbidity current, so they drill into the debris flows then, and that's how they determine stuff, huh? See here.
Yeah, it's like very similar.
Turbidity currents are
how they do the tsunami deposits. It's the same type of thing.
Yeah. See how this kind of rolls on out? Yeah. I see how
because
it works.
it only does the deposit when you have like a big enough thing to cause it, all the the sediment to fall down into it.
Right. Look at that one. Wow.
Like they can tell when it's regular sediment and how it's different, like when there's an earthquake that causes it, because the sediment looks different. Same as like what it does with the tsunami when they do the tsunami thing on land. So you can see you can see the different layers. Well, it's the same thing in these turbidites.
Wow.
And then they date it, and then they match them all up because they're taking samples from different places. It's not just from one place, right?
Right.
So they're doing it in multiple places off the coast, and then now they've gone into each lake. Like they find a lake and then they do it and see if the turbidites in those match the ones that were offshore. And if they do, well, then you know it was the same quake. Now, if they find one that in a lake that doesn't match up with one off the coast, then they know, they surmise it was an inland quake that happened that didn't affect the one offshore.
Yeah, some
So
of
they-
these turbidites can be freaking huge. I'm looking at a video or a picture online, the little guy right here, and you can see the rocks in this turbidite flow. So these are the debris that's rolling, and then it gets, over time, it gets solidified and cooked and hardened, and then they discovered a little bit in the sandstone. See, there's conglomerates, and then erosional contact down in here. So sandstone, conglomerates, erosional contact, and you can see these flows on these rocks, and then they talk about those. Wow.
So basically,
pretty
to
far
simplify it, it's an underwater landslide that's making it.
Right. That's what makes the turbidite. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they say, well, it's a quake, most likely, that would be creating that. So then they're trying to match the quakes with those dates of the turbidites, and that's what they're doing. So they're doing it both on land and offshore at the same time.
All right. So the idea is they date based on the turbidites, the information they find in it, whether it be plant fossils or other kind of things, and then or crystals, and they date the crystals or the conglomerates or whatever that's in there, and then they establish a date. And so they say, well, if this thing happened at such and such date, then they can go back and see, well, through the many layers, they can see a turbidite flow, a turbidite flow, a turbidite flow, a turbidite flow. And based upon volcanic ash that sinks down through the water, then they can kind of say, okay, this ash is related to this volcano and it erupted at this date we already established. So therefore they can go back and say, okay, anything underneath that ash flow they know is an older turbidite flow. So they say, okay.
Yeah, because now with the ash from the volcanoes, they can tell which volcano it came from.
And the time frame that volcano erupted, yeah. Okay, so that kind of establishes our timeline. So 2,700 years looking at these cascadal events. A lot of volcanoes have been going off, right?
Yeah. So this study that we're going to talk about for 1954, they're focused on the last 2,700 years of the turbidites that were in that lake that they were looking at in Southern Oregon. Because it has to do with that lake. So that's why they only went back 2,700 years, I guess.
Okay, so there's a specific lake in Oregon, I take it? And
yeah, it's in Southwest Oregon. It's called Acorn Woman Lake.
Acorn Woman Lake, all right.
Yeah, and that's what it's called right now, but it used to be called Upper and Lower Squaw Lake. But they changed it to be more politically.
It's not related to Squaw-Commie, right? Up in Washington, it's just Squaw, Squaw or something like that.
Squaw Lake.
Okay.
And see, that's what they used to call.
Yeah, the lefties get all tree huggered on them and whatever. Let's get into it. All right. So you spoke about an event that happened in 1954 that really kind of got their juices flowing. Is that where you want to start?
Yeah, we'll start with that because I'm just going to read a bit more there of that article because it's going to mention the other ones we want to talk about too.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Because that's where I got a bunch of the information from originally. So, and then we're going to expand out to the other ones as we go here.
All right.
So I'll just give the background on it, so I'll read the first part of it. In the Bulletin of the Seismological Society of America, a team of researchers shares the scientific sleuthing that led them to that conclusion in a tale that combines fading paper records, modern methods and modeling, and eyewitness accounts of the event. The December 21st, 19 in a region where earthquakes are common. This part of coastal Northern California includes the Mendocino Triple Junction, where the Pacific, Gorda, and North American tectonic plates meet, and is the most seismically active area of the lower 48 states. So we're talking about Mendocino area, and we know that it's busy there, a fair amount. But the 1954 earthquake was unusual in its location, magnitude, and shaking intensity.
Location, near east coast of Kamchatka, class, moderate, magnitude, 5.0, depth.
Another 5. Okay.
To go.
Yeah, but the 1954 earthquake was unusual in its location, magnitude, and shaking intensity. Historically, most large earthquakes in the area are located within the Gorda Plate, either offshore or the portion of it that is subducted beneath the North American plate. There have been no large earthquakes on surface faults in the North American plate in the region in instrumental times, although the faults have been mapped as active.
All right, so the faults are active, but there's no large earthquakes on the surface faults in North American plate in the region since instruments have happened, right?
Yeah. And that's based upon like the depths that they know the quakes are. So they know it's in the subducting plate and not in the North American plate.
Yeah. I'll continue with Peggy here. A retired seismologist, Peggy Helwig, at the University of California, Berkeley Seismological Laboratory, and colleague concludes that the earthquake was a thrust event located about 11 kilometers deep, or about 6 miles, I think, below Fickle Hill to the east of the city of Arcata. Not Arcadia, but Arcata. These characteristics taken together suggest that most likely source of the earthquake is the Cascadia subduction interface. They both write, Cascadia subduction zone along the Pacific Northwest coast looms large in the scientific and public minds as a potential generation of a great earthquake. A magnitude 9 Cascadia earthquake occurred in 1700, drowning forests, sinking coastlines to 6 feet underwater, and led to a massive tsunami that caused damage as far away as Japan. Fickle Hill earthquake could help questions that seismologists have been working diligently to solve during the Cascadia subduction interface, only rupture in large amounts. 1700 style earthquakes, hey, does that entire interface always rupture? The entire rip, right? That's what we're after here, all right? And this article talks about maybe science is starting to see things in a little different light. Mainly, most people believe that a complete rip is the only thing that happens in the Cascades, along the Cascade Zone. That's from basically Mount Lassen all the way up to Canada. That's the Cascadia volcanoes. The Cascadia subduction zone is off the coast north of Cape Mendocino and all the way up to Vancouver Island, I think, or Bella Bella, I think maybe even. So the Juan de Fuca Plate. So that's roughly about 800 miles, and it looms in the minds of everybody because scientists have just gone haywhacker, in their minds, going, "Hey, what the heck? This is super dangerous, and it can happen again," because they were digging and researching, and I think was it Brian Atwater, a USGS guy, he discovered that the events happened multiple times. And now they're going, uh-oh, what do you mean? And the idea is, and that's why across the internet, everybody talks about the Cascades. Everybody. Because that's a large earthquake, and it's the United States, right? I mean, they don't even really talk about Indonesia that much, but they talk about the Cascades. They don't really talk about Japan that much. They do, but not like the Cascades. Wonder why. But this article talks about there is a new thinking because of this discovery of this earthquake that, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we don't fully understand how the Cascade subduction zone really works. And that's what we're trying to show to you based on this article today. You have anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, so there in the next paragraph it talks about, they think 92 was another time it happened out there, which is one of they call it the Cape Mendocino quakes, because it started with a 7 point, and then there was 2 large aftershocks in the same day, like within 24 hours.
Okay.
And so the newest studies on that also say it was most likely a Cascadia event.
All right, so 1972, 1992, it had a 7.2 in Cape Mendocino. We often get quakes in Cape Mendocino area. And I want to know exactly where it happened so that I can plot it and then kind of look at what's going on.
On one of the pages that we're going to look at, it shows where the 7.2 was and where the aftershocks were. So
right.
You know exactly where it is.
We're going to be looking into that. So we're going to lay some more foundation. So continue there, buddy.
So we're going to keep going down here. And then we have the big one from 1700 when it was the entire fault, she said, but really don't know of any earthquakes that we've measured with instruments that were on the interface. And people have postulated that it is locked and nothing's going to happen until the next big one comes. Cascadia is really unusual in that in the instrumental era, it has been eerily quiet, said Lori Dengler, a retired seismologist from Cal Poly Humboldt, and one of the study's co-authors. We don't have smaller earthquakes, and that's not something you usually see in subduction zones. In Humboldt County, Dengler added, there's the question of whether map faults in the overlying North American plate that are related to the subduction interface rupture on their own, or do they only rupture as part of a mega thrust event? It looks like this is a little patch on the mega thrust that did rupture. So this is really new in terms of our understanding of how Cascadia works. Howeg and colleagues spent 3 years revisiting the enigma of the 1954 event, which has gone by many names over the years. They analyzed published earthquake catalogs, unpublished data from the Berkeley archives, and newly identified data from accelerometers that were operated at the time of the earthquake by the United States Coast and Geodetic Survey, USCGS.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way, Howeg recruited colleagues to contribute their expertise in locating and digitizing records, creating a probability cloud for the earthquake's hypocenter using modern software, and determining a mechanism for the earthquake. It was especially helpful to find records of how these data were collected, including how the relevant stations and instruments operated and what calculations were made with these data throughout the years. Howeg said, noting the importance of preserving those types of records. Even when we think about our modern data collection and what we preserve, we need to think about it in terms of somebody who in 50 years might want to go back and look at it. The metadata are really important. So they have to explain like how they're calculated or figure all this data.
Right.
And it comes along to understand what it is.
Yeah, and sometimes there's so much metadata and data, or whatever you want to call it, and so much stuff, it's hard to really glean from it and present it to somebody such as our listeners And the people who follow our channel and at twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live, or on Rumble, Joe Slick Live, or even on YouTube, Joe Slick Live, and how that data is presented to normal people. Because most of our people here, there's citizen scientists and stuff. I'm just a reporter, and I report what I'm seeing. And also, I'm kind of a geeky kind of dude. Like, I want to know how the system works. See, I can report on an earthquake, and, I regurgitate all that information. But if I can show you how the earthquake comes about, then you can understand the mystery behind earthquakes aren't there anymore. It's a normal occurrence. And then you can prepare for the inevitable, because earthquakes happen. Just like shit happens, man. Sorry, Patrick.
So the last couple paragraphs here gives an example of how they collected the data, so I thought they were pretty good. So
go ahead.
I just read it. The researchers also revisited estimates of the earthquake's intensity with the help of reports that detailed damaging and felt shaking that had been gathered by the U.S. CGS. So this was before
Right.
USGS. Newspaper archives, photos, maps of damage to the water supply for the nearby town of Eureka, and newly collected eyewitness accounts. As part of the study, the researcher placed a call for earthquake stories in local newspapers and Facebook groups. Stories came in from people who were children when the earthquake happened 71 years ago, but they had remarkably consistent memories of sloshing bathtubs, toppling chimneys, and rolling ground that allowed Hellweg and colleagues to estimate the earthquake's intensity. Then they give examples of different accounts they had. One 11-year-old girl was riding her bicycle with a friend when they felt the shaking, and the two of them immediately dropped to the ground and covered their heads, doing what they had been taught in their school's atomic bomb drills.
I remember those.
Yeah. And it said she remembers rolling ground, toppling chimneys, and sparking power lines, but one of the images that stuck with her the most was the unheard of sight in 1954 of a woman coming out of her home with her hair still in curlers. So I thought it was funny that they put like the little examples of stuff.
What they're in her curler. So when did it happen? In the morning?
54, yeah, it was in the morning.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whatever it was, what's the date again? No, December 21st, 54. So it would have been like right before Christmas time. December.
Oh, okay, in December.
Yeah, December 21 was the date of the quake.
Right.
So just before Christmas.
That's pretty far out. Yeah, that's pretty far out, man.
So I kind of like that they threw that in there to give you an example of the different information put together, because that's pretty. You're going from scientific things to like eyewitness accounts to try and figure out all the stuff that was like what it was actually like. And this is what they're doing with all these crazy studies. It's just wild.
And that
so whenever
1954.
Whenever they do a new one, they're putting all this information together and adding more stuff. And this is what they're doing with all these things. So every time a new study comes out, they're adding more stuff into it. So this was from 54.
Yeah, so, December 21st, 1954. The kids were probably on Christmas break. That's why they're riding the bikes around. Yeah, it shook Humboldt, and do have an epicenter here. Fickle Hill quake. All right, I got a picture of it here. Let me see if I can get that for you.
Yeah, because it goes by a bunch of different names. They've called it a bunch of different names.
Yeah, I have a new, what is it? What day is it? Oh, August 30th, 2025, San Francisco Chronicle. Scientists have solved a long-time mystery of the origin of the 6.5 earthquake in Humboldt County in 1954. In a recent study, researchers mapped the quake's surprising spot in the Cascadees subduction zone. That's crazy. Now it just bumped me out of that whole thing. Don't you love
Uh-oh.
it? They just want freaking money. Yeah, I got a map here for you, so hang on, man. I'm gonna go like this. Yeah, go like this and go save, and then I'll go ahead and open that up. Got a lot of rabbits, man. All right, right here. Here we go. All right, so on the recording that we have, Fickle Hill, it is it's in California, down about just north of Arcata. All right, in the little bay there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to open up a GE and show you. And then share screen, window. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Dismiss. All right, so here's Mendocino. Whoop, show on screen. Here's Mendocino. Right here's Arcata, and that mountain is right here. Fieldbrook, Blue Lake, Corbell, Fickle Hill, right here. All right, so the Cascades subduction zone is right offshore here. And if I went and opened up the USGS, it'd give you a clearer picture of where that is. And if I went to satellite and I zoomed in, right, here's the border, here's Eureka, here's Fickle Hill right here. So you can see it's right by Tyee City, McKinleyville, which is interesting. I think McKinleyville got rocked by some of these other earthquakes. Here's Eureka, and here's Humboldt, here's Hooktown, Cook Island, Warsack, Fortuna. Often you hear a lot of earthquakes, shaking up Fortuna and Ferndale, right? But this one is to the north on Fickle Hill, which is right here. And if I zoom out, looking out, right there, that little bend, so to speak, that's the Cascadia subduction zone. It begins right here on the Cape Mendocino triple junction and moves up. So right here at the first little bend of the Cascades, whoop, it makes it go away. There's a, I don't know, what do you call that? There we go. Right here, this canyon. So that canyon is right offshore, between two canyons, actually. The lake that they were talking about, I'm not sure where that lake is. Is it back here? That's Whiskey Town. I don't know where the lake is they were talking about. Did you find a...
Yeah, it's the closest place name to it is called Jacksonville, I think, Oregon.
Oh, Jacksonville, Oregon.
Yeah, it's the Skyview Rogue River area.
Okay, way up here.
Rogue River.
Jacksonville's right here.
Lakes that are around there somewhere. They call it. What did I say again? Acorn Woman Lake.
Squaw Lake.
Yeah, it's Squaw Lake before. Was the name of it before?
Let me try to find that. SQUAW Lake. Okay, here's Squaw Lake. Acorn Woman Lake. So this is the lake right here that they looked at the turbidites.
Yeah.
Okay. It's relatively well-established little lake. There's another one.
So the study that on that 2024, we're going to talk about it. It says that the 1873 quake was probably a 7 in order to make the turbidite in that lake.
Wow. Yeah, because
the 1873 quake, they also call it the Brookings, Oregon quake because they think it was offshore. But now they think that there was in the latest stuff, they think there was one offshore and one on land at the
It's
same time.
basically 100 miles away, or 98 miles away. Is this Fickle Hill? 93 miles away. All right. So why they
So
chose
it's
that?
within
Yeah.
100 miles. each
Well,
other.
interesting because it's right off Brookings, or right just over the border of California, Oregon border, 90 miles south of it, and it's along and Gold Beach is just a little bit further north, and even today we've had a couple of quakes, just north of that on Bend, and often on the Blanco fracture zone right through here. There's a bunch of strike slips, and these are spreading centers, and then this is the subduction area. So I wonder if that's over by Grants Pass. No, it's just over the border. So it's way south. So it's just over
Yeah,
the
it's
border.
close to the California
Yeah.
border.
So I mean that's okay. So just over the border, and we're talking down here in Acadia. There's this near south-facing shoreline on West Haven and Trinidad, and then there's definitely a northeast or northwest facing beach line that goes all the way through Eureka, all the way down to Mendocino, and then offshore is where where that bend is right there, which you won't let me do. You can't zoom in, man.
No, for some reason.
It don't want me to.
I want you to see the trench.
Yeah, because there is another little trench right down in here. So
Because those trenches or canyons are what they get the turbidites
right,
out of.
yeah, exactly, and that's kind of why I was doing that. You can see the fluvial.
From like multiple places going up and down the coast, and then they check and see if the turbidites don't match up.
Yeah, that's
So
kind
that
of what I was
means,
looking for,
yeah, so that means that the quakes had to be big enough,
to shake up a large area, right?
to create the turbidites in all those different canyons. So
Well,
that's how they match them up. If anything basically above, well, they were going for like the really noticeable ones. So that would be
yeah.
right. But sevens can create it too.
Well, what we noticed on land, not in the subduction zone, but on land, generally speaking, when you have a 7.1, you have a 15-foot slide of one and on a strike slip and one around the other. 7.3, you have a couple of more feet, so 17 to 20 feet. So think of that, the whole landmass moving that much. Now, if we have a large landmass moving, such as a 9, you've got to look at exponentially looking at something, maybe if it was a surface rupture, we might get 50 feet, maybe 40 feet. I don't know what when the San Andreas ripped, what was the offset of that up in 1906. But because you can see a fence move, right?
Yeah.
And just evidence that, hey, the landmass is moving. And the reason I bring it up is because when the landmass moves, then the turbidites move. So it's got to be something significant to make those turbidites move and or flow down the face into the deeper depths.
Into the canyon. Because really what it is an underwater landslide.
Correct.
Created by a large earthquake.
Correct. And the heavier stuff falls first, and then the lighter stuff continues down the road. Yeah. And then over time, sediment builds on top of that, and then continues. Yeah.
So then they can see when there was like a big disturbance compared to what it would be normal sedimentation, right? So that's what they're doing.
Right. Let me
figure
put
out.
this on.
So they basically
Fickle
say
here.
that a large event had to happen in order for that turbidite to show that.
Right.
Same as like a tsunami deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea. Except this is underwater and a core sample. Whereas with the tsunami deposits, they're doing it in an area where they dig down and they can see like where the tsunami came in, areas that would be prone to tsunamis, and that's how they can see the layers of sediment. And then they date it to find out when the tsunami hit, if it matches any information they have about the earthquake.
And we're talking on 1952 or 1954, and it was a 6.5 event.
Yeah, they say 6.5, but now they say it maybe it was higher than that. So, and that's what you find when you look at this historical stuff. They're changing the mag based upon what the evidence says now. So,
right. And then let me see. That was San Francisco Chronicle. What else? Right here. This is the article I want. Bang, bang, bang. Copy that. Put it in my.
Different things talking about it since whenever that study came out, the most recent one.
Okay.
August 29th or 30th or whatever it was. So there's all these articles about it.
6.5 to 7.1, yeah, 1952.
Because everybody's all trying to figure out what's going on with Cascadia and if it's actually gone before 1700.
Right.
Which it has, if you're including evidence of sevens.
So, how does this quake, this 1952 quake being near 7, how does that mess with the idea that the Cascades rip all the way and only all the way?
Well, it's just based upon the size of the quake. So they're thinking a full rip is like a 9.
Mm-hmm.
But anything below that, partial rip, which you could even call these ones we're talking about a partial rip, but they're just like a little tiny one.
Right.
Because they're because see, people have argued that, well, has Cascadia gone off with any big quakes? Well, if you're calling big quakes 7 and above, well, then you have to say yes, based upon the evidence. So it's gone off at least 3 times with 7s that we know of since 1873. Now, we don't know between 1700 and 1873. Maybe it did have 7s out there, but nobody was recording information on it.
Right. This new study.
Yeah, the native people probably would have felt them, but they
of course, yeah.
Yeah, recorded them with a date, so we don't have a
right,
date.
because they don't use our dates, right?
Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to go back and say this happened on April 23rd, 1737.
Right. So this article links the 6.5 quake to the Cascade subduction zone, which stretches from northern Cal to Vancouver. It is known to give off many small and medium quakes. The seismology parlance, the fault is locked or unmoving. The last known rupture of the massive 9 earthquake happened in 1700, caused landslides and enormous tsunami, blah, blah, blah. We know all about that. Laurie Dingler, a retired seismologist at Cal Poly, one of the study's co-authors, said, "We do not have smaller earthquakes, and that's not something you usually see in subduction zones." And often you and I, during the reports and during rabbit holes, which is a deeper look into what's going on around our world and and the subject matters, rather than a cursory overview that I would do in the morning reports at 8 o'clock on Twitch. These things, it's interesting. We don't get a lot of quakes in Oregon. And yet, this is on the California-Oregon, well, it's in California actually, but it shook up in Oregon. And it's at the bottom side of the Cascades. And they say themselves in the article that it's an unusual look at the Cascades, because they say, well, maybe it's not so locked as we think. You know, I'm kind of putting words in their mouth, because
actually, if you're counting sevenths, it goes off way more often than you think.
Yeah, and I think their estimate is between 250 to 400 years, 450 years, and the lack of smaller quakes in the decades since scientists started monitoring faults with their seismometers and instruments means they have limited sense of Cascadeous behaviors. But the new research published in the Bulletin of Seismological Study of America, which we were talking about on August 19th, suggests that the fault has possibly ruptured on smaller scales within recent memory. The study reevaluates the December 21st, 1954 quake. That's what we're talking about. And it happened in Humboldt Bay just before noon. Residents reported a ground blah, 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 and chimneys falling and people falling off their bikes and ladies having their coolers fall out their hair. Researchers had previously proposed 14 different episodes for this particular quake. The new study honed in on new, more precise location of Fickle Hill, a small forest community along the 2-lane road not far from the larger city of Arcata. Researchers led by Margaret Helwig also found that the fault had caused the quake likely rupture between 6.8 miles and 8.7 miles below the surface. So relatively shallow. And we just heard, you know, what she said, 11 to 14 kilometers. And I said about 6 miles, 6.8 to 8.7 miles. That's relatively shallow for a huge quake. So that's going to shake the surface a lot more than, let's say, a quake that's 60 or 100 miles down there.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what the thickness of the crust is there, but it's probably pretty thin because it's close to the ocean.
Arcata sits on a particularly interesting earthquake region. It's not far from the offshore Triple Junction, where Pacific Ocean plate meets the Gorda Oceanic plate and the North American Continental plate. It's also the transition zone between the San Andreas Fault and the Cascadia subduction zone. Most quakes near Humboldt originate on the Gorda plate, but the Fickle Hill quake didn't. The researchers found, based on the depth and direction of the earthquake waves, the quake instead seems to have come from Cascade.
Yeah, so it will be the JDF's subduction. Well, Gorda's subducting too.
Yeah. And there's a slab window, which you have to go back to our previous studies there on Rumble and YouTube, and you can find those. And there's a slab window just south of the Gorda Triple Junction, or the Mendocino Triple Junction, on that little Gorda plate there. And then
now, because we know the depth of the quake and we know how thick the quake is in that spot,
right,
you can deduce or surmise or whatever, figure out the quake was actually in the subducting plate, so that would make it.
Wasn't there an article you and I talked about too that said in that area of the Cascada subduction zone, it's more stark, meaning the drop off of the subduction is sharper in that area than it is way up by Washington and Vancouver, where that's more of a flat slab up the top?
Yeah, it's more flat at the top. more angled or whatever, sharply at the bottom, which would make sense because that's when we look at the tremors. That's what we're looking at. Right? We'd be looking at to where it's dipping down, and then how far it dips down in. The tremors wouldn't go too much, like farther inland from that, because if the tremors are in the subducting slab, we're not going to detect them once it's down too deep. Because I don't know, I can't remember what, because it lists all the kilometers even for the tremors. So, like what the depth are for the tremors.
Okay.
So you can actually compare the depths to find out of the quakes whether they're in the actual crust coming up to the surface or if they're in the subducting slab that's going underneath our current crust.
Yeah,
and see, this is what people are not differentiating. They don't understand, because you have to know like how thick the surface crust is, and then you have to figure out if it's in the slab underneath.
Right.
And that's what all these depths of the quakes are determined that when it's the same really for fracking quakes and everything else. So you have to understand how thick the crust is and then where the subducting slab is in comparison to the crust that's above it. So it gets kind of complicated because you're getting all these numbers and trying to figure out where the quake is generating in comparison to where this other stuff is. And it's the same with fracking oil wells. And like I've been arguing, for example, with people that are saying the Kamchatka quakes are nukes going off. And so I have to explain to the people that the deepest depth they do nuke tests at, putting them down in the ground, is 1.8 kilometers. So if the quake's below 1.8 kilometers, it's not from a nuke. And then people say, well, the trench is deep. And I said, but the quakes aren't in the trench. So then I have to say, because I've dealt with this so many times, I said the Kuril-Kamchatka trench at its biggest depth is 9.6 kilometers. But if you look where the quake is, it's not in the actual trench. It's either inboard of it or outboard of it. So I said, then you have to look and see how deep it is there. Well, if it has to be a quake because it's way below all this other stuff. So it can't be a nuke. It can't be a sub. It can't be the Chinese doing something.
Right. Because they can only dig down so deep and put that stuff down there. And it has a different signal altogether.
Yeah, but people aren't understanding that. So I have to explain it in a way that they... Because all these people keep saying the same thing. Oh, well, they're using some weapon to do this. Well, if they are, the weapon is going down 10 to 40 kilometers deep.
And then rupturing. All right?
Yeah.
So it kind of leaves out this idea, this people talking about HARP and all that bullshit, where, HARP's going to, zap the planet, and then all of a sudden it's going to get through all this stuff and then get down there and then plop.
And then I have to give him the other historical examples. So for Kamchatka, we know it had big quakes, 9 pluses there in 1737 and 1841. And I said, we weren't doing oil and we had no nukes then. So how do you explain having a 9 at those times? And then they go, oh. And then I say, because the earthquakes and the faults and how they work, they don't care what us. And I used the same thing with what us dumb humans are doing up at the top. It doesn't care. Never has.
Right.
And then they can't argue it because there's evidence that says that that's what it is.
Well, so, I found an article that it's an image, but it's from an article that says this part of the Cascadia breaks about every 230 years, plus or minus, some
but
years.
If you look at the newest data stuff from the surviving Cascadia website, it has an 8 every 219.
Right.
That's
220 years I've got. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and in the northern part up by Washington and Vancouver, it's 480 to 500 years. So
we're way overdue for an 8 if you're counting an 8.
Yeah.
But if it's at 7s, then it's less. which is what we're getting into with
Yeah,
this
we're gonna.
one.
Yeah. I was looking for the different information that I've gleaned from our discussions, and it's like, man, we have so many rabbit holes. It's pretty tough to put it together. Say, hey, you know.
So I want to go back right now and do 1873. Then we'll do 54. and then
Okay. All right.
do-
18.
So
You want to go 1872 or 1873?
we'll do 1873 because I just
Okay.
want the date for this, and then we'll work back into 1872.
All right.
So the next quake we're going to look at is the one that happened in southern Oregon. They also call it the Brookings, Oregon quake. They call it by different names back then too, but it's in this same area that we've looked at so far. So the 1873 one was also near the end of the year. I'm just going to read the Google AI thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's the easiest, and then we'll look into the study that we've already mentioned. So this one says, in this, when I looked it up, they call it the 1873 Southern Oregon quake. The 1873 Southern Oregon earthquake, also known as the Brookings earthquake, occurred on November 23rd, 1873. So end of the year, so it's like the other one we looked at in 54. So I thought that was interesting too. The earthquake had an estimated magnitude of 6.75 and an epicenter along the California-Oregon border off the coast. The event is considered the largest recorded earthquake in Oregon's history. So the people were to write it down. Key facts about this earthquake: magnitude approximately 6.75 on the Richter scale. Some sources also list the magnitude as 7.3, which we're going to get into that other part from the study. Location: its epicenter was on the Pacific coast at the Oregon-California border near the town of Brookings. Hence,
That's what I'm looking for, is exactly where it popped off.
Yeah. Damage. While no injuries were reported, structural damage occurred in southern Oregon's Josephine and Jackson counties and in Crescent City, California. Type of earthquake: the quake was a crustal earthquake, meaning it occurred within the North American plate rather than being along the Cascadia subduction zone plate boundary. But there's new stuff that contradicts that.
So say it again.
Yeah. So when they originally figured this out, they said the quake was a crustal earthquake, meaning it occurred within the North American plate rather than along the Cascadia subduction zone plate boundary. But then the next section talks about the modern scientific analysis. Recent studies of the lake sediment have shed new light on the 1873 event. Sediment records, research published in 2024, which is the study we already mentioned, analyzed deposits in the Acorn Woman Lakes, formerly known as Squaw Lakes, in the Klamath-Siskiyou Mountains, about 100 miles inland from the epicenter. The earthquake signature: scientists found a distinct layer of light-colored silt attributed to the 1873 Brookings earthquake. The silt layer, which is 1.5 to 4 centimeters thick, likely formed from landslides caused by the shaking. These findings help scientists differentiate between crustal earthquakes like the 1873 event and the much larger megathrust earthquakes, such as the one on the Cascadia subduction zone 1700. So what they're doing, they're comparing all these.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the 2,700-year record of Cascadia megathrust and crustal slab earthquakes, because it's given them both, right, in the turbidites. So it's given them both records of Cascadia and other crustal slab earthquakes that happened inland, right? Because they can see the difference between the ones that were probably farther inland and showed up and the ones that were off the coast at the same time. So that's what they're doing, comparing them. Because if you look at the latest stuff on this, they said there was probably 2 quakes at the same time one offshore and
Yeah,
one inland.
you mentioned that, and they can be confused as well. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, they also think it was the same thing 92 as well. So when we look at the 92 one, it was doing the same thing,
all right.
all in like 24 hours. So they're trying to determine if it's, like they say it's crustal at first, but it's still in the slab. And this is what the argument is, right? Once they figure it out. And then they see that other quakes happened and went on like out farther, like in the same time period, either at the same time or within 24 hours. So when it's doing this, well, the example would be like what we're seeing in Kamchatka right now. Because
Sure.
it happens in one spot, but then it all adjusts with the aftershocks or whatever, and it's got you can tell that it's in the slab based upon what
Right.
it's doing.
I'm having trouble finding the exact epicenter on this quake.
Well, they don't know for sure because it was 1873.
Right.
Because any of their seismos would be probably.
It was near the California border and Oregon border.
Yeah, I don't know what the closest seismo would have been back then. Probably San Francisco, maybe.
Probably.
I'm guessing probably would have been the closest seismo to that at that time. You'd have to look it up to find it.
Well, they did
I
like
can't,
1700.
I can't remember if Hayward Fault, which was in 1868, if they had a seismo at Berkeley then. Probably. I can't remember what exact years they had the first seismo at Berkeley.
Yeah.
So they would have had a seismo, because I'm pretty sure the first place to have a seismo was Berkeley in California.
Mhm.
I can find it out here in a second.
That's what I'm trying to dig it out right now. November 23rd, 1873, it reached a magnitude 7.3, much stronger than the originally recorded. This is May 31st, 02 on, and who does this? DJC Oregon. Both quakes were interplate earthquakes which occur beneath one of the many sections of the Earth's crust called tectonic plates.
Berkeley
Brookings quake, 1873 Brookings quake. There it is.
Berkeley didn't have a seismo until 1887.
All right, so Brookings, it's 1873 Brookings quake. Or you're right on the border again. So dealing with the turbidites, they have the turbidites from this quake as well, 1873. Am I correct?
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's what they found in the lake.
So that's the reason why we picked this up. And we started with the turbidites to help you understand that this quake, much like the other quake, pretty similar, 6 3/4 to 7.1 earthquake happened, and then it happened again, and what was it, 52, and then 73, and then at 52. Both of these quakes happen in the same general area. Let me find where Brookings is. I want to say it's right there on the coast.
Yeah, it's right on the coast, I think.
Brookings. Yeah, it is right there on the coast. So it's just a little bit north of the other one, and as you can see on screen, it's right there. So Brookings
Like
is
when
right
I'm
here.
when I'm reading all these studies, like that newest one was talking about 54, and it mentioned 92 in that, but it wasn't talking about 1873. But then I've read these other studies that are talking about 1873 and saying that it's basically the same thing. So it just depends on which study you're looking at, and there's different people looking at different stuff. And what I'm arguing in this thing is that it's gone 7 3 times.
Right, up to a 7.1 in 1873.
And we
Rookies.
don't know between 1700 and 1873. Maybe it had other sevens. We don't know because there wasn't anybody there recording a date that it happened. So these ones that we're talking about now are corroborated not only with scientific stuff, but with
Right. We're not just talking out our butt. Yeah.
written down records of what happened.
Right. And this again, they're saying that this quake is beneath the subducting plate of Wanda Fuca. Am I right? Or is it beneath the North American plate?
They would be in the subducting plate.
Okay, so it is in the Wanda Fuca, but it's beneath the North American plate, which is riding up and over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're assuming based upon the depths and other
that's definitely Cascadia, right?
Yeah, that it's in the Cascadia slab, like you want to call it, like Cascadia slab. Well, that's what it is. So they're saying that those, even though they're under the North American crust that's going over the top of it, where the quake is generating is actually in the Cascadia slab. So see, it's kind of semantics, right? But back then we didn't understand the difference between the subducting slab and the crust above it.
Right, because plate tectonics didn't come into the 1970s. Yeah. So they just assumed it was roller coaster or something. I don't know. No, everything was static. Everything was static. Yeah.
It was just a quake in the crust, but they didn't understand there's levels of.
Right. Plate tectonics is a relatively new theory that is proving itself to be more true and understanding how things work here. Yeah. All right. So I have that.
Crazy when you think about it, because tomography, figuring out what's in the mantle, is actually based upon doing calculations from quakes. So they're actually finding what's down there from using various quakes, especially deep ones, to find out what's going on down in the mantle and matching all these things up. So there's all sorts of different scientific angles they're coming at it to figure all this stuff out. So as time goes on, you would think that they would get better at figuring all these things out, which is why all this stuff is always a work in progress. So you can only go with the current.
Hence the reason why we bring these articles up and we talk on Rabbit Hole. We don't just talk on our backsides, but we talk about these articles here. Interesting idea of what's going on there. The seismicity of this area is pretty well known now, and more people were getting out there and jumping on it, of course. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, now we're going to talk about what was happening right before this.
Okay.
So this was November 23rd, 1873, this quake. So at the end of 1873, but we've talked about what was happening the previous year many times before. Because what happened
1872, yeah. Tehachapi went off 1872, or was it?
1872 was Owens Valley.
Owens Valley.
In March.
Yeah.
March 1852.
1857.
And the North Cascades quake was December 1872. So guess where this 1873 quake is? Halfway in between the two.
Wow,
making
look
a big
at that.
triangle.
So what was the big one that happened in the North Cascades?
Yeah, they think that was like mid-7.
But what was it?
It was in December 1872. So like a year right before this, 1873.
Okay, I'm looking here. I got a list of these. 1872 near Lake Chelan, Washington, December 14th. This earthquake evidently had a large magnitude because it was felt from British Columbia, Canada to Oregon, and from the Pacific Ocean to Montana. Wow.
Yeah, and earlier that same year you had Owens Valley.
It occurred in the wilderness area, which 1872 had only a few inhabitants. in Indian tribes and trappers and traders and military men because there were few man-made structures. The epicenter near Lake Chilean. Most of the information available is about ground effect, including a huge landslide, massive fissures in the ground, and a 9-meter high geyser. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking 9 meters, that's 30-some feet. Lake Chilean. I don't know where Lake Chilean is. I'm
It's
gonna
not
look
far
that
from
up. CH.
up the road.
What is
But
it?
they actually figured out exactly where it was, and it's in this river canyon that comes
CHELAN.
one of
Do you have something that says they know exactly where it happened? Oh,
Yeah,
there's
the
Lake
newest
Chilean.
Yeah, the newest stuff. It's in the they named it a canyon fault, and that's
Okay.
what it was. So they found the displacement, and there's a landslide there along a river, and it runs out.
The Okanagan Wenatchee National Forest is on one side. What's the name of
Yeah.
it?
I can't remember, something canyon fault. I don't remember what the name of the fault is, but it was in the canyon because they just found it here the last few years because
Okay.
they found where displacement was, and it from a landslide that they found there, and they said, "Oh crap! Well, this is the fault that made 1872 North Cascades."
Lake
And it would be near Chelan, or however they say it,
Chilean.
but yeah, it's an actual
1872.
fault that's in a canyon there that runs into the.
All right. Let's see what we got here. North. Yeah, 1870. Spencer Canyon Fault.
Yeah, Spencer Canyon.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see, North Cascades. Let me see. I got a epicenter here. Yeah, I got an epicenter. Cool. Copy. Put it on this one. Let's look at
They just found out exactly where it was recently, like the
Paste.
actual displacement and the landslide and the fault scarp, all that stuff.
All right.
In the trees.
All right.
I
Let's
don't
check
want to
it
get
out.
into that now, but they found there's at least 5 or 6 faults in the area of Ellensburg that can make 7s. They don't want to tell anybody about. Because they all go northwest to southeast, running right towards Ellensburg, because this is how they started doing all this. And then they said, "Oh crap!"
All right. Saved a project.
So
There's
basically, Eastern
earthquake.
Washington could get a 7 way inland, like what happened.
1872. Lake Chilean.
Which is probably why Nick is so interested in all this stuff now, because he's getting into knowing all those faults, right?
Sure. I mean, he's learning like we are.
Yeah.
Now
I'm not sure if he's looked at all the ones that go right by Ellensburg, because there's 5 or 6 of them that I've looked on the newest stuff from 2020 up that they're doing right now, and they said there's at least 5 or 6 there falls that they think can make 7s.
Yeah. On December 15.
Towards Yakima, which is the Yakima fold and thrust belt, which is also Al.
Right.
I'm sure
Which you and I talk about often with that.
Yeah.
So they're saying, what's the size of this one? 1872.
They say mid 7.
Okay. So
With
7.3 to 7.6.
Sometimes they say 7.3. Sometimes they say a little bit less than that. But I say mid 7. Based upon the new study, they can all make mid 7s. Including all the ones in the Puget Sound, which is another story. But, so it's crazy stuff.
Okay.
But see, then you're into the same question: is it the fault generating it, or is it? See, this is what they're trying to figure out.
Yeah, I got a 7.3 on this one here, on that search. So 7 plus. May 9th, 1878, about 75 offshore near the Mendocino Fault as well. So 2 separate quakes. In 1873, November 23rd occurred near the California-Oregon coast border. And then again,
See, they're saying the same thing in the newest. If you look up the newest stuff, it's like an inland quake and an offshore one at the same time. So they're saying it starts with a record of one, but then they say, "Oh crap, there was two," and that's what they're
Right.
finding in all these studies. So when it's having the inland portion,
Mhm.
it's adjusting also off the coast, or if it's happening first off the coast, it's then adjusting inland with the aftershock.
So there's this connection, right? So
Yeah, because it's if it's in the slab, the whole thing is like adjusting, right? Now this one wouldn't be in the slab way in. Well, I don't
yeah,
know.
because it's pretty far inland.
Maybe it
Um,
is because the slab is flatter up there the farther you go north. So who knows how far it is under there? Well, they probably know, but it seems interesting to me anyway. And see, they say that the slab is flatter more when you go to the north, like under Vancouver Island and that upper part. And we know the Nisqually quake in 2001, they say was in the slab too. So they say it's a crustal quake, but then when they look at the depth, they say, well, that's in the slab because we know how thick the crust is. And
yeah, this one's now we know that like I said earlier, is the studies have showed that in the Pacific Northwest, the Juan de Fuca, which is subducting in a flat kind of path where it doesn't drop down like this, but it kind of follows the underbelly of the plate or the underbelly of North America there, much like it did in Southern Cal. Now, this can still happen because of that, smaller slab.
See why this is important is because you have to know the depth of the quake, and you
Yeah,
have to know how thick the overlying crust is, and then
yeah,
where the conducting plate is. Because
right.
say if the crust is only 10 kilometers thick, the overlying crust, well then,
Well, it's
if
under
the
Mount
quake is
Rainier.
below that, then it has to be in the subducting slab, not in.
This quake here could be Glacier Peak too, because Glacier Peak's right there,
Well, maybe.
you know. And I don't know when the last time Glacier Peak erupted, but the Okanagan Wenatchee National Forest is right there. Waterville is right there. Wenatchee, which we hear often about because we study all that. Chilean, Lake Chilean. We've seen Lake Chilean with Nick Zentner, and it's an interesting location. And yeah, far out. And it's funny, I don't even have what the freaking frag, man. Done. I need to add this to the saved a project. It's a freaking volcano.
Well, they said Glacier Peak's last significant Tefra eruption was about 300 years ago, so that's the.
Wow. Wow. Well, what happened 300 years ago?
Well, that was Cascadia.
Cascadia. Where did you find that article somewhere?
No, I just did the search right now.
When was last time?
The Smithsonian Institution, it says where they get it from. Notes a recent eruption a few hundred years ago. Or the
Glacier.
USGS lists the most recent as
Peak.
1,100 years ago. Well, 1,100 years ago is 900.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So 900 AD is when you had Seattle Fault going off, when you had New Madrid going off, when you had
Yes, sir.
Cascadia going off, because
Yeah.
it all tied
Yes,
together.
sir. Yes, sir.
So apparently Glacier Peak last two times it went off, that they know for sure,
Mm-hmm.
they're all Cascadia time. So
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
It said the most significant eruption of Glacial Peak was 13,000 years ago, during the end of the last ice age. The other one was 1,100 years and then 300 years. And two of those ding us on the other studies that we've had. That's why we get right into it. It's like, what? Yeah. Wow.
Well, actually,
wow.
3450, because it says 3450 here too, 3,400 50 years ago. That also matches one of the New Madrid studies that I've looked up, because they have it go back to like 3300, 3400s for New
Yeah,
Madrid. Don't.
I'm saying here,
So that's interesting. So that's more things to add to that.
yeah, the
So now
latest was a small steam
now-
eruption, dome collapse, lahars, dome collapse large enough to reach the sea, dome collapse and lahars, multiple small tephra eruptions, dome collapse, lahars large enough to reach the sea, and thousands of years ago. So, two significance, pretty far back. One is about 13,000 years, another is about 6. And then everything else happens within the last 3,000 years. And two significant eruptions within the last 1,000 years, or the latest one was a small one. But interesting. Yeah.
Well, we know the cone there, Nazca cone, or whatever it's called, Nazca cone up in British Columbia. So British Columbia went off in 1700 too. Same year as they've actually figured that out. Same year as Cascadia. So it's probably not a big surprise you're going to get a bunch of eruptions around the same time as Cascadia goes off. So that's why it's important to watch the volcanoes as well.
All right.
But they're probably going to go off either right around or right after, like what it's done with Nankai Trough when you look at the Nankai Trough history, too.
Far out, man. It's just freaking far out, I'll tell you.
It makes sense to me because it's on the opposite side of the Pacific Plate on both sides, right?
Right.
So one's adjusting big time on one side is probably going to adjust big time on the other within a specified amount of time. Because if you look at 1700 at Cascadia, and then when Mount Fuji's went off at the triple junction on the opposite side, across from Mendocino. It's pretty interesting. So the last two times Mount Fuji's erupted was after Cascadia 1700, and then after Nankai Trough 1707, which they say were both full rips. So it's pretty interesting stuff. So you get a full rip on one side, you get a full rip on the other within such and such amount of time. So this is why we're really trying to figure out all this stuff, and that's what they're trying to figure out, how one relates to the other. And so we're going back here to 1873 and just look at what happened in 1872 that we know about. Well, Mexico had a big quake in 1872 too, as well, because it was a day after.
Yeah, why don't you talk to them about the Chilean was it not Chilean, but the Gia faults, and I'm gonna try to put this online for you. I got to use I got to go turn the power on for my wife.
What I'll
my
do,
daughter.
Just talk more about 1872. So earlier that year, in 1872, we had the Owens Valley quake. So
Okay, remember, we're seeing your hat, not your head. So. So I'm going to have it on the screen here, so you can kind of hold on a second. Share screen. The Gia right in here. Load the Gia. And 1872. I don't know if the wiki has it. I searched. I couldn't find it. Because I don't think wiki goes back to 1870s.
No, the Wikipedia with the list of quakes only goes back to 1900.
Okay.
They don't do it by year. You have to find the individual quake and then the other one. So it's easier with the Gia thing. But I had already been studying 1872 because of the Owens Valley, because I was trying to figure out where it from back
So
then.
I got to go turn the stove on for my daughter, and I'll be right back. So go
Like,
ahead.
I didn't realize about all these other quakes till I started looking into it. So I started with like 1872 because it's a well-known one from California, and that it was super big in the Owens Valley, just a little bit up from Ridgecrest, really. So Ridgecrest is the most recent one we know about, but Owens Valley was a super big quake back then. So it would have been in that same region, Owens Valley, coming up in early 1872. So March, end of March, it's near the end of March. Well, also that same year, you had a massive solar storm that they detected in Asia mainly. So like Japan, China, all those places, it was in February. Colima volcano had a major eruption also in February. So that would be down in Mexico near Colima. And then that, like a little more over. So there was massive solar storms that were going on just before this. All this stuff started happening in 1872. So then you had Owens Valley at the end of March. And then you had North Cascades in December 1872. So it looks like it was coming up, like what it always does, it appears. And the day after the Owens Valley quake, I think it was like March 26th or 27th. Then the next day after that, there was a big quake in Mexico, Guerrero, 7+. So all these big sevens were all going on in 1872 before you got the big quake in 1873. So that this was the lead up to it in North America. So you had massive solar storms and you had all these crazy quakes. So over like we're basically looking at, if we're just looking at 1872 and 73, well, that was like a time period of a year or so. All these crazy big quakes were happening on the West Coast. And it's crazy that it makes like a triangle, which we found this numerous times before when we look up the big quakes, like looking at sevens, for example. So like in a year's time, it went Owens Valley, North Cascades, and then back to in the middle, Southern Oregon. So it's pretty wild stuff. Because I keep finding this more and more the more stuff I study going back in the past. So it's not an unusual thing that it's doing this with the big quakes. And as I look into all these more from all the other years, I find the same patterns over and over. And if you go back like more than a year, you start seeing how it works as well. Because if you go back, like say, if you go back 5 years from 1873 to 1868, well, in 1868, we had the big Hayward Fault quake. So actually, over 5 years, the whole West Coast was all being hammered, right? And this is with quakes. And if you look back, you'll find out there's all these crazy solar storms and stuff going on in those same time periods. And that's how it all relates. Because in 1868, you also had the same year that Hayward Fault was, you had a 9 in Arica, Peru. It was then. Now it's Arica, Chile. And they're looking for a big quake in that same spot again now because it's overdue since 1868, same as Hayward Fault. And you had 1868 in Hawaii, you had both Kilauea and Mauna Loa erupting, and there was a 7.9 there. So you have to pay attention to all this different stuff that's going on in order to figure out how it's all working, which is pretty interesting stuff.
Right.
So like the big quakes don't come alone. There's always a lead up to them once you start broadening it out from the specific spot that you're looking at. So really, you could say that 1868 to 1873 was crazy town for quakes on the West Coast. But when you start looking at it, there's all sorts of other things going on at the same time that explains why that pattern was happening. And so this is just 1872 and 73 we're coming at now. Well, we're going to jump ahead and do 1954.
Right on.
Because we've already talked about 52 because Kamchatka, because there's a big quake in Kamchatka in 52. And that same year, you had the Tehachapi quake that same year, which was after Kamchatka.
Mm-hmm.
So that was White Wolf Fault right next to where the San Andreas and Garlock intersects. So now we're looking at the quake that happened in 54, Southern Oregon, Northern California again. Well, that was less than 2 years after, well, actually it'd be a year and a half because it was at the end of the year. So a year and a half after all the crazy stuff happened at Kamchatka, which was like a 9, and the big quake that happened at Tehachapi was that same year. Tehachapi that same
Yeah.
year.
Tehachapi.
Yeah, well,
It's okay, buddy.
it's an Indian name.
It's a definitely a Indian sounding name, right?
Yeah, because I think it's named after the Indian tribe that's there. That they had.
It is either one.
Yeah, that they moved them all from the Owens Valley because they were in the Owens Valley. So goes back to the history of the Owens Valley. And they moved all the Indians out of there and moved them to Fort Tejon. And that's where they put the reservation. So those Indians was, I think, the Tehachapi, or however you say it. That's
Tehachapi.
Yeah, that's the name of the tribe. Well, I don't know how you say it because I get different things when I look it up.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's the name of the tribe of the Indians.
So you want to talk about the Kern Valley earthquake, or which earthquake do you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
they call it Kern Valley in Tehachapi or Tehachapi or whatever.
Tehachapi.
It's all the same one. They just call it different names.
It was on the White Wolf Fault. Yeah, 7.5, 7.3 to 7.5.
Yeah, because if you look at the latest studies, they say White Wolf and all those other faults that go on the same way, they say they're all really the Garlock. But I don't want to get into that. That's brand new stuff from like 2024, 25. So they're saying those faults that are there are actually Garlock, just different angles going into it, different offshoots of it.
Right. And what's interesting in that 1952 earthquake is off Kamchatka, right where it's happening right now, 1952, had an 8.8 to a 9.0.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why, when we talk about Tehachapi on the White Wolf Fault, we saw earlier this year, late last year, a 5.2 on the White Wolf Fault on the very edge of it.
Yeah.
And so that was significant amount for us to be alerted to it because the 1952 is a repeat.
First 7 we had at Kamchatka that was way before the 8.
Mm-hmm.
While I was watching that, within so many minutes of that one happening, it started quaking in that same spot.
Same spot, yes.
So I said, look, there's the connection between 52 acting up right now.
Yeah, boy.
And when you look at it, it makes sense because that's opposite sides of the Pacific Plate.
Yeah, for some reason, it may be, this is a theory that I'm working with, and it goes right with what Professor, I call him Professor, but Nick Zentner's discovering with his people right now. And let me get this out here, and I'm going to share screen here. This is kind of the thing that I'm working off of, and I think with a couple of videos that Nick has, it may not be the same, but this is kind of what I'm saying. When we go to the Grand Canyon, what do we talk about in the Grand Canyon, right? The biggest thing is the layers, right? The layers of strata that fill and fill the Grand Canyon walls. We say, okay, well, there's an age, 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 and there's an age. So what we have is different strata, different kinds of rocks that correlate around the world at different time periods, right? And so what you have is there a possibility that, let's say, this level of rock travels or is well beneath the crust all around the North American plate? Let's say, this whole area from here to here is maybe 1.5 billion to 3 million or 300 million, right? And if it is, and this strata here is all throughout North America, and I'm going to preface that or add to it, if this is the rock that's quaking, or it's moving, and then all these other ones are responding. Could it be, and remember, this is just the crust. The moho's down here, right? So there's like gobbledygook down here. If there's a connection within this realm, like let's say that level is sliding that direction, all these others are going to slide at a lesser, right? But if this is sliding at a large area, and let's say it's 12 kilometers, then everywhere that level moves, does that shock wave go through the whole that portion of the crust? Kamchatka is part of North America.
Yeah, and this is the other debate that people have been talking about in all these different chats that I'm in, because they're trying to understand, well, is Kamchatka part of North America? And most of the geos would say yes, because technically, if you go by what that says, the Alcos Plate, which Tokyo is actually
it's part of North America.
Yeah, which that would make sense with the Nankai Trough going off, because it goes right to Mount Fuji and Tokyo, which is the Triple Junction,
which is south, and that's the Philippine Plate that smashes up against the North American Plate right there at Tokyo or Edo.
Yeah, so that's how all this stuff is happening, and that's why usually there's always something up north by Kamchatka that happens before it happens at
the Nankai Trough, which you and I are both keying on, and also we key on what's happening in Indonesia.
Yeah, so are the Japanese, because they.
Oh yeah, they're put themselves on alert because of what's going on in Kamchatka right now.
But we should be alert over on our side.
That's the key. That's the key.
Because it's already moving big time on the other side, so at some point it's got to catch up.
Yes, sir.
Not only on our side, up in the northwest somewhere.
Right. Now it's gone as far as central Alaska, up by Sandpoint, Alaska. That had a 7.3 or 1, and then Kamchatka went off. Right. So
because we know what happened between 52 and 60, because you had two large quakes in Kamchatka, 52 and then 59.
Right,
and, then
and
you
60
had
of the
1960, so then it adjusted on the upside and the bottom. And
64.
then you had 1964 Alaska up the top.
Right.
But you still had a bunch of big ones in between all those spots, because that's what it has to do before you get the big ones.
So your supposition is one side of the plate adjusts, and then the other side of the plate adjusts. So if this side drops down, then it's going to make room for this side to move.
Yeah, and when you think about how it's subducting, because if you read about what they say about the Kamchatka 8.8, they're saying that Kamchatka actually slipped so many feet over the Pacific Plate.
Only 2 meters the last time. That's really small with those kind of big quakes.
But when
the whole edge or the whole bottom of Kamchatka, which is a large quake, they only move 2 meters.
When it does that, it still has to adjust the whole way around.
Hence, we've been having when was from August all the way to now?
Well, it really started. You go back to 2020, Sandpoint was slipping on the upper side.
There you go.
Right? And then you had South Sandwich way down.
Which is kicking off today.
And then you had Kermadec, so that was all 2020, 21.
Yeah.
So see, there was 3 sides again.
The whole southern portion of the Pacific,
So it's going to have to adjust on the other sides again. So probably New Zealand will probably get another one here eventually, which probably won't be good.
Well, it's really odd. It's super odd. 2 places around the Pacific Plate are quiet. One of those places is the Kermitics. I watched earthquakes all day long, every day. The Kermitics were busy. We had, Hunga Tonga Happy Eye in the Tonga region, and Vanuatu is still busy, but it's got earthquakes. but we've got a couple little quakes not in the Kurils, but we've had a couple big ones in the south of the southern island of New Zealand, and then all of a sudden it shut off.
Yeah.
Right? And Chile shut off, except for down in the armpit over there at the base of Peru and Chile border. It's still kind of a little busy there. Today we have Easter Island went off. Now we have, excuse me, Sandwich Islands going off, mid sixes or fives and sixes. And we got Kamchatka popping off, but not a whole lot. Central America's got fours, Oaxaca, Chiapas, Nicaragua's nothing. So,
and that's why I want to do 1954 next, because when I looked into 54, it's almost identical to what's happening this year when I looked it up. So I want to do that next. So
you want to go through the list of earthquakes in 1954?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do, because you're going to freak out when you look at the list, because it's going to say, oh, crap, here we go again. Because I never looked into 1954 in detail until I found that latest study on 54, and then I wanted to see what was going on at that same year. Because I want to see if these same patterns repeat. And I've already found that when Kamchatka acts up, it always seems to affect South New Zealand, which we just mentioned. Because you're going to see when we look at these other years, it's doing the exact same thing. It's friggin' crazy town. And it's just that I haven't looked at a particular year.
Do you want to look at 53 first, or you want to go to 54 straight on?
I'll just do 54, because
All
we
right.
already talked about 53 before when we were doing 52.
Right.
We just
All right.
never went in
I'm
54.
going to share the screen, so this.
If we would have, we probably would have seen it already, but
I know.
it just so happens that this study came out on 54, saying
All right.
on. And I'm
And today, September 19th,
Yeah.
a very significant day for some place.
Yeah, Mexico always gets a big one.
On this day in history. Uncanny. What is it, like 3 different times it had major quakes on September 19th?
Yeah, just in the last few years, there's been a whole bunch on that same day.
Yeah, I'm drinking iced tea, man. I'm drinking iced tea.
Because it started with 85, the 1985 quake, I think,
Yeah.
was September 19th. That was the big Mexico City.
All right, so
And so that's their anniversary date, and they always do all their quake drills on that day for Mexico.
yeah.
And they always go through the drill, and then a real one happens.
All right. So notable earthquakes. All right, these are notable earthquakes, and we're going to start January of 1954.
I wanted you to go to the list first for the biggest ones that year.
Okay, the biggest quakes by magnitude. All right.
Yeah.
Andalusia, Spain. What the hell?
Yeah.
That's in the mountains. That's in the mountains of Andalusia.
That's the southern part.
The
there.
peninsular. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, that was the biggest quake that year.
1755. Hey, Spain has gotten a couple little earthquakes.
And it's been active there.
Burma, which Burma is Myanmar.
So, see, same thing.
7.4. Nevada, 7.3. Oof.
Yeah, and when you look up those Nevada quakes that year,
Mhm.
which we'll do later, there was more than one, and it's in the same.
Same
Pretty
area. That's
close.
pretty close to where it's active right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
exact same spots.
And then you got the volcanoes, islands of Japan, which is the Isuzu Islands toward Guam. That's a 7.2. The Gulf of California, 7.2.
Yeah. Now we haven't had any big Gulf of California yet. But
Yeah.
We'll see.
And the Owen Fracture Zone, which is in the Indian Ocean,
Over by
7.1.
all those places. Red
Uh-huh.
Sea.
Gansu Province of China, northwestern China, which has been semi-active.
Well, we had the Nepal
Yeah.
quake earlier
There-
this year.
there's
Well,
several
Nepal,
of 'em.
whatever you call it. It wasn't really.
Yeah,
small.
there've been a couple of pretty good quakes in that area. Banda C, Indonesia. Banda C. I want to say that's by Timor. Am I right? Because that's the.
Well, yeah.
Oh no, it's Halmahera. Sorry, Banda C is over by Halmahera. Yeah, and including Timor as well as Halmahera and Seram C. Banda C. I want to make sure. Let me look.
Yeah,
real
because it's
quick.
either like kind of in between all those.
Because I've been watching Indonesia like a hawk because I see something big gonna happen. Timor C is a Timor. Banda C is in between. Okay, Sulawesi, and then it's just north of the Timor, just where the 7.6 happened a little while ago, a couple of years ago. That on that triple junction right there. So we got several volcanoes that have been active through Indonesia, and Banda C is just north of that. Okay. All right. South Sandwich
next one.
Islands got a 7.
So, well, we've had the two big Drake Passage ones, which are just
Yep.
a little bit west of South Sandwich.
Yes, sir.
And
then Fiji 7.0.
So that's just from looking at the biggest ones that year. So I just looked at that first and I said, well, here we go again. It's like all the same spots have been hit this same year that we're looking at pretty much, except for Gulf of California but every other place.
You know what? The Gulf has been quite busy all the way up to the Delta, which is close to the border with North America or U.S.
And then if you start going by month,
I want to know where the Gulf, where this thing actually hit.
could be, I do have to look up the exact date.
Yeah. I have to look up the exact date. April 29. What is it? 1952. 4.
This is all 54.
April 29.
Because our Oregon quake was at the end of 54. December 21.
Tijuana time, 4:34 a.m. Volcanoes, earthquakes. Let me see where the hell epicenter is. Oh, it's right by the volcano. Yeah. So I got it. Yeah. Let me share that with you. So right here by the volcano.
Oh, the one that's in the middle
Mhm.
of California.
Yeah. So Hermosillo right here. That's the what liniment we call that one? We call that one the St. Lawrence liniment, right?
Yeah.
That goes all the way from Canada through St. Lawrence River all the way through Texas and West Texas, that is. It's pretty crazy. We're looking at the USGS real quick here. Oops, sorry.
Well, to simplify that, it's the same thing, right? Because there's your
God bless
Pacific
it.
North American plate intersection point. Because that's what it is, right? Right there.
Yeah. So if we look last 30 days, terrain, 30 days, boom. And you can see a series of quakes up here, New York area, even in Boston, Montreal. This is the St. Lawrence River right here. At that angle, follow that angle through Columbus, through New Madrid, through Oklahoma, through Texas. I mean, seriously, okay, they're drilling oil all over the place, but these two areas are super, super busy. Hermosillo is right there. It's that liniment that cruises up that way, which, any Iceland earthquakes or happenings in 52?
In 54. I can't remember.
In 54?
Because it was in these lists by month. I looked at. Because you're going to see a bunch of the same places were going off back then as what was now. I just can't remember exactly which month it was in. So I did, like, after I saw those 10.
Hey, Hecla.
Oh, so Hecla was
Hecla was active in 1954.
Well, so that means Iceland was having issues. Yeah, so that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. And the reason we say that is because we trace that lineament all the way to Iceland.
Because it's really opposite sides of the plate from each other.
Correct.
It's still North America.
North American plate.
Opposite sides across from each other when you do the lineaments.
Right.
And that's why the quakes and, well, it's not just quakes, because wildfires and everything all follow the same lines across the plate.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to prove, but yes. Yeah. All right. So
people don't understand it till you explain all this stuff, and then you give them the information.
Looking outside the box, basically what we do is we say, okay, there's an event that happens here. Is there anything that's happening around the world that, you know, is repetitive?
And it's plate bumper cars or
right.
ice, like in a river smashing up against each other. One moves and all the others adjust. Well, there's crusts doing the same thing. So the quakes are just it moving. So when it moves in one place, it has to adjust to that movement across multiple plates. But if you want to simplify it, that's what it means. Larger the quake, the bigger the adjustment. That's all
right,
it is.
Yeah.
If you get 9, there's going to be a crap load of ones that are going to adjust because of that. If you get a 6, it's probably going to adjust.
Well,
like
look what's happened since what? Since the 9 over in Japan.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, huge event. And
yeah, it was
now Kamchatka and Indonesia, Kamchatka, the whole western side of the Pacific has been booming huge. Yeah, I mean, this is common. Yeah, it's common. But if you follow the patterns like we do, if you follow the events, you can watch the waves traverse the earth and say, okay, we're not predicting earthquakes, but the likelihood of something happening is quite possible.
Like you can see how the pattern goes. So it shouldn't be a surprise within so many time periods, say 2 years out from a major event. You should be able to figure out where it's going.
It seems to be about a 2-year window that, I've seen 4 years, but more than likely large things happen within a 2-year period. Now you can see small ones, but I mean, you really rack your brain by going, okay, here's a 2.5, here's a 3, here's a 2.5, here's a 4, here's a 1.9, and you're going, oh man, there's just too many of them. So we kind of look for the larger earthquakes and the flow. And we say, okay, we can see the movement of the plates themselves jostling, bouncing into each other, that it's repetitive. So if a wave comes here, it hits here, it moves there, it moves there, it hits the Caribbean, it hits the North American plate, it splits the Central American area, and then bounces down into South America, which is already getting pushed. Everything's getting pushed up in the north. North America is getting pushed down in the south, southwest, and then all the earthquakes are going on northwest to southeast on the strike slips. So it's like, wow, a lot of things going on. And I think that's... and
I noticed about swarms now as well, to include them in all this, because a swarm can be big enough. If you put them all together, it makes like a 6 or 7 more in a particular area. So when you start studying the swarms, you can find out that the swarms were happening on these same lines. It just may not appear as a bigger quake because it's just swarm of 4s and 5s or whatever. And so when I start looking up all this stuff, I could go way deeper into every year, and I could find all the same lines all lighting up with swarms or what, and then I could do fires. I could do all sorts of different things.
Yeah, I mean,
Depending on how far I want to
you do have a fair amount of spare time to research these events happen. I kind of see it in a little bit quicker or a little bit less cluttered, and I take the leap a little faster, but I think how I've seen it and how you've seen it kind of really blends together really well, and I think that's why us doing this is pretty. I've seen other people doing what we do, saying the same things now, which we've been saying for near 5 years, which is odd.
If everybody's looking at similar information, eventually you're going to come to the same.
Right. I mean, I'm not a geophysicist, but
And what's so funny is, like with Nick doing his stuff, it's just trying to be the normal teacher geologist.
Yeah.
And how with all these advanced people, and they're trying to and even they'll say that they're trying to simplify it down so that people can understand what it's doing.
Yeah.
I have to know how to do that. Right?
Well, you take the data and go, well, maybe this is like 1/116th of something, kind of like the connection with the solar activity or the lack thereof, the solar wind versus the ionosphere, the ring current versus an astronomical projectile going through space, whether it be a comet or a rock or a planet, affecting our or being affected by the magnetism of our planet and the magnetism of our sun and the other planets and how they interact. You kind of have to glean the surface of all this stuff and say, well, is there kind of is there kind of something to it? And you say, okay, we document that. All right, we do it again. Okay, at a different year, time period. Oh, and then again. And then when you start doing this often enough, then you start to see the progression. So, Brother Climmer.
How you doing, bud?
We're doing Rabbit Hole right now.
Oh, well, don't let me bother you then.
I'll call you back. You know what day it is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, boy. We're almost done here. We're doing 1954 right now. And
1954.
Canuck's not going to be here tomorrow, so we're recording it. And but I knew you were out and about, so I didn't want to send you the link.
I just got off of work and got home, so.
All right. Well, I'll have a beer with you in about 30 minutes. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right.
I love that guy.
Pretty good. We better get going and finish.
All right, man. This has been a good discussion. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So just in 54, just skim down by each month, and you'll see that Greece is going off and all these other things.
All right. So January, we have New Zealand going off rather large. Mexico City, Guerrero is a 6.
Yeah, and look where the New Zealand ones are.
South Island.
So,
We just talked about that. That's happening. Yes, sir. Australia, New Ireland, so Papua New Guinea, 6.7. That's been kind of active too. The Volcano Islands, Chiapas, Nicaragua, a couple of 6.8s. Nicaragua, Mexico Michoacan has a 6. That's normal there. That's strong. So
we've had Guatemala acting up.
Yes, sir. Offshore. Yep. Banda Sea has got the 7s. Sandwich Islands right there too. Strange places in India too. Bhutan, 7th largest city. I don't know where this is. Bhutan is.
Yeah, Bhutan, I think is
between China. Hey, this is an area that has gone off. 6.2. That's where China is trying to steal India's land right there, and they're going to do it. Nobody's going to stop China. The Ryukyu,
like if they have a slightly different name back then. But
there's the Ryukyu Islands, a 6.5. Japan. We've been watching that thing hit so hard for so long. Now it's stopped, but oh my God, there's so much built up right there. I don't know where Adelaide, east of Adelaide, South Australia. Okay.
South Australia acted up. We just had the
Yep. Two quakes down there. Yep, that I saw. Some damage caused by the 1954 Adelaide earthquake. Strongest events in the area happened in February. March, Papua again, Alaska, Kuril Islands 6.3. What? Looky. Guerrero 6.0 again. Southern Cal pops in with a 6.4. Moment magnitude scale of an 8. I don't know.
Yeah, that was one of the San Jacinto ones, I think. 54.
All right. Is your sister okay?
Yeah, she's just coughing. But
Mm-hmm.
both been having that.
Philippines, Bayou Island, known as the Bayan Group Islands Archipelago, located in Luzon Strait. This has already had 7. All right, I think there was like 3 7s in the last 2 or 3 years. One they downgraded so much so it even had a tsunami that went in up into the general area. Hawaii 6.0 and a 6.5. I wonder if the volcano was going off, Kilauea.
Kilauea was erupting that.
Yeah,
So I think I looked.
look it up. In 54 was Hawaii Kilauea erupting, which is erupting big right now. April, we have Chiapas, normal, 6.0. I mean, not normal, but we're having 4s right now. It rocks and rolls all the time. That's what I mean. Hokkaido, up in the top of Japan, 6. The Adrenal Islands in Alaska, that's in the southwestern Alaska. Okay, southwestern. Yeah, those have hit, but it was the Russia side that it hit. There's Kamchatka, 6.3. Gulf of Cali, a couple of Gulf of Calis, a 6.6 and a 7.2. 1954. I like to find out where the hell those hit. There's Greece, Thessaly. Wow.
So I found out 54 eruption Kilauea was a short but spectacular summit event that it began on May 31, 1954, after 18 months of it not doing anything. The eruption featured a lava fountain and a lava fall that rapidly filled the crater with incandescent lava. This was a significant summit eruption, marking the last major summit eruption of Kilauea before a period of predominantly rift zone eruptions in the subsequent decades. So basically in 54, it made a big one that was short, but it filled the whole crater.
Wow, well, that's kind of what's going on right now. There's a, what did I say, like 3,000 foot flow of magma shooting up in the air, you know, crazy. Maybe 1,000 feet, you know, it was super big today, you know. Greece does a 6.7 in 1954.
They're basically saying that was the last time that the crater.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those demarcations that we're talking about, that this event happened when this event happened, when that event happened, whether it's volcanic, whether it's weather, whether it's solar, whether it's earthquake, these type of things happen, and then going into the future, they happen all again in the same kind of thing. So it's like, are we just kind of reading the tea leaves, so to speak, or are we kind of seeing a persistent kind of pattern that can be replicated? And then we go back, way back in time, and guess what? We see the same kind of thing happen, and then, you know, I mean, how often do you see? And
I'm not sure there's too many people that are actually doing it.
Right. Well, I've heard a couple of people repeat things that we've said because they're starting to say, hey, there really is something to it. So, you know, it is what it is, baby. June, Ecuador. Hey, Ecuador's been banging around a little bit too recently, right on the Ecuador-Peruvian border. Papua New Guinea, always been super busy. Loreto region of Peru, again, 6.5. Chile, Antofagasta had a 6.6. I think we had maybe a 5.
Yeah, we didn't have anything super big. And
Here's Ethiopia. I want to say Ethiopia is in the
Same
southern.
rift.
Yeah, it's in that rift, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of the southern part of Africa too. So maybe part of the Olympic Walla Walla limit that it traverses the world. I don't think it's the Texas limit. I think that's South Africa. July, Luzon, Philippines again. Belgian Congo. Now there was a quake in the Congo not long ago. Nevada, 6.8. Where in Nevada?
Yeah, there was multiple big quakes that year in Nevada, 6s, but it's all in the same area where
the swarm hit.
I-
That's in the northern part of Nevada right now.
Yeah.
And then we got a bunch of stuff happening in Chile, Coquimbo, Los Lagos, and in China, Inner Mongolia. When I say Chile, understand in the 1960 quake, it started at the top and it went to the middle and then it really exploded in the south in 1960. So that was a complete freaking rip of the Chilean subduction zone. So, and Chile is relatively quiet at the moment, which is not normally. I'd be always posting Chilean quakes.
Right now, if you look at all the stuff they're going on with it down there, they're worried at a big rip at the top.
Yeah. Up north of Antofagasta, up in the top. Nevada, plenty of Nevadas. The Kuril Islands are banging away. The Persian Gulf hasn't happened yet. Greece, the Aegean Sea, which we've been seeing a lot of Grecian earthquakes, right? Over the last 6 months, 7, 8 months. Here we are, 9, right? This year. I'm talking about this year, everybody.
We've already had 2 or 3 6s already.
In Kamchatka, Taiwan, Southeast Japan, Taiwan had a 6. So that would be more in the Luzon Strait, southeast. There's nothing over there. That'd be what is going on here? Yeah. Well, anyway. I guess my lady's out and about. Japan, Hokkaido. That's the north. Like the hatchet of Japan way at the top. You kind of expect that when Kamchatka's going off and the Kurils up there. You kind of expect Hokkaido because it's kind of following that trench,
It's going to adjust at some point.
Yeah.
Probably once Kamchatka settles down, but right now
it's not wanting to. And there's been years that we've done a lot of studies about Kamchatka that exploded, and you watch Japan just go, oh my land, just fantastically going off. Bad for Japan.
Because it did in 1923. 1923, it went, I think, Kamchatka, Hokkaido, and then the Great Kano earthquake, which was the 8 under Tokyo that wrecked it.
Right.
In 1923.
Alaska 6.4. Santa Cruz Island, Solomon Islands, banging away. That's east of PNG toward Vanuatu, those kind of islands up in there. Mexico, Baja, California. Hey, Baja, this is like 3 or 4 quakes this year. Baja, right? Watch out.
Yep.
November, Baja, California, 6.1. The Northern Marianas. That's southeast of Japan's volcano islands. So
because 54 quake we're doing is the Oregon one that was at the end of the year, so December.
Right. So here's the Northern California, Southern Oregon 6.8 happened right there in November here, And the Nevada quake, 7.3, huge quake in 1954.
Yeah. But it was acting up with 6s before that.
Right. I think the one prior to this, I think it was in 1915. Was there a big Nevada quake?
Yeah, right after Lassen.
Lassen was
Right.
quaking, right. So the northern Nevada has a volcano as well.
Yeah, Nevada in 34 too, which
Right.
after all the crazy stuff that was happening in 32.
Yeah, huge aftershock. The 7.3 was a level 12 moment magnitude scale. This was a stinking rock and roll, rip roaring earthquake. Bad earthquake. If it would have happened in a populated area, multiple thousands of people would have died.
We shouldn't be surprised right now that Nevada's been acting up based upon what's happened with these other ones we're looking at.
The depth of this Northern California one is unknown, but it's at the I think it's California Oregon border again. So a lot of times the triple junction happens, and then up there Nevada's happening, and then up again back out toward the coast in Washington or Vancouver and all that. So
and now I just want to jump to 92 because we can go over that pretty quick.
1992, Cape Mendocino.
And I want to do the second one I sent you because it shows all the maps and where the quakes were. So we'll skip over the Wikipedia one and do the one I sent because it has all the maps and shows where the quakes are.
You talking about the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group or?
Yeah, I want to go to. I gotta find it here because there's one map in there that works for the better what I want to talk about. And I sent you the main page there, and what I clicked, I think was the first one of the blue thing, the 1992 Cape Mendocino earthquake, and then it jumped down.
All right, hold on.
And then it has a little map in the corner right underneath it showing where the epicenters of the quakes were.
Spud, Iris Spud, GMV?
No, it would have been.
Oh, 1992 Cape. I already have that one. It's the wiki.
Yeah, well, there's another one I sent. It's RCTWG Humboldt EDU Cape Mendo 92 earthquake.
Yeah. That's the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. And then there's the bars, and I just went down and clicked the one that says 1992 Cape Mendocino earthquakes. And then it gives me, I click that, it shows me the map where they are, and it gives a little pointer on it. So I'm just going to read that.
Go right ahead, buddy. It's right here.
Yeah, and explain what was happening. So on April 25th, 1992, a sequence of earthquakes began on Cape Mendocino, resulting in widespread fault shaking and damage across Humboldt County. There were 3 significant earthquakes included in this sequence. The first was the largest at a magnitude 7.2, and it occurred at 11:06 a.m. on April 25th. It was located 3 miles east of Petrolia, California, at a depth of 8 miles beneath the surface. This was followed by a magnitude 6.5 aftershock at 12:41 a.m. on April 26, located 17 miles west-northwest of Petrolia. The second aftershock, a magnitude 6.5, occurred at 4:18 a.m. on April 26, centered 18 miles west of Petrolia. The earthquakes were large enough to be recorded by seismographs around the globe. The seismogram below, well, it gives the actual seismogram for it and shows some other stuff, but on the map there, see, it shows how it started out on land close to Petrolia, and then the aftershocks actually went out onto the Cascadia subduction zone. But basically, they're saying now that those were all
Cascadia? Yeah, I think they're Cascadia as well.
Yeah. So if you read the newest stuff on it, that's what. And there's multiple studies that say that now. So that's why they were talking about that in the 54 study. So they mentioned 92. And then there's the other new studies that just came out also in the last year or so that say 1873 was the same thing. So to summarize, we've had multiple sevens on the lower part of Cascadia that we know of since 1873. So 3 sevens, most likely, since
Okay.
17. Now, we may have had other sevens too that we don't know about between 1700 and 1873.
Yeah, I'm doing a quick search right now for just that. Custom in that area. Of
And what's
Cape
so
Mendocino.
interesting about this sequence here is it happened to be before all the other crazy stuff that happened in 92 in SoCal. Because we studied it before, because that's when Landers, Big Bear, and what was the other one? Joshua.
What was that noise?
Somebody revving an engine outside on the street, going down the street.
Your house?
It's often around here. Well, it's out on the main
Okay.
Broadway street.
All right. I want to show you something. I'm going to share this tab. This is from 1700 at the Cape Mendocino area. There's 11 quakes. One of them is in the 1906 quake down in San Francisco. All right. This quake here happened 1899, 7.0. This one's a 1922, 7.4. This one's 2005, 7.2. This was 1991, a 7.0. This is 7.2 in 1980. And 92, 7.2, right? And then here we are, 1923, 7.1, 7. Here's the 24.
1923 was the same year as one of the big Kamchatka quakes, so that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And then 1899 was the
Mhm.
same year you had the big Yakutat quakes.
Yes,
So
sir.
I don't know what the date was for the 1899 one.
My supposition is saying that these are the largest quakes on the Triple Junction area.
Yeah.
And most of them aren't considered part of the Cascade. However, I think that mindset's going to change. And
Well, they say the 7 we had last December was Mendocino, but not Cascadia. if you
correct. And here we are, 2024, December 5th, had a 7. It's on the bottom part of that Mendocino. This one's on the north, 1878. This is on the south, 1994.
Because they're debating it now because they know how far the slab goes in under them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's a
Here's the
inland crustal quake, but see now they're getting the terms confused because they were calling them crustal quakes before, but they're not really,
Right.
because they're not in the North American crust; they're in the subducting slab based
Right.
upon.
Our
How thick-
1992 earthquake we're talking about is in blue right here. This is the location of it, and they call this one now a Cascade quake. This is the other one, 1980. That's a Cascade quake, a 7.2.
And there was 2 notable quakes in Oregon in '93 as well. So right after all this happened inland, Scott Mills and
Mm-hmm.
Klamath, I think, was the other one.
Right,
Klamath
which is
Falls.
just north of it. Yeah.
And 94 was Northridge. So you see what this does. See, it's like going back and forth. And in 92, you had all the crazy quakes up there, but then you had SoCal go nuts with 2 6s and the 7 later that same year.
Yeah, but
So you
staying with the Cascades, I think the next time we'll talk about the connection between the Cascades and Southern Cal, because I think there's a huge connection there, as well as what's happening on the New Madrid, because I think there's a connection there too. But what we're seeing here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quakes that are cascades. Now, when we do a search, modify the search again, 7, and then I do custom again, and I do another area of subduction, right, off Mexico, right, search. Didn't like that. Oh, it's because that one is broken. I'm sorry, I had the 5 in there. Search.
Too much for it to.
Look at all the earthquakes that happen on the off the line of the subduction zone. I've often said this during my shows that major quakes don't happen on top of where the two plates meet, but they happen
Yeah, not at
inland.
the trench. It's usually
Inland, yeah.
inland from the trench.
Right, about
Because that's where-
25 to 55 kilometers.
Because that's where it's slipping is.
Mm-hmm.
The subducting plate is slipping in under where the
And
over.
and this
running
is
plate.
what this is what I'm saying in the Mexico, okay?
Yeah.
So, right there, you can see the subducting plate boundary, and where most of the quakes are happening is just barely onshore. So, I guess my wives keep coming in and out the house. That's interesting. Now, and going back to the Mendocino quakes, and there you go. Out here, these are in the this here is a spreading center here. Unlike what happens in Mexico, right? In the area of Mexico that I showed you, right here, this is subducting. Out here is the spreading, or strike slips. Right? These are I wouldn't say they're thrusts, but they're subducting kind of earthquakes.
Well, they say now they're, if you read all the newest stuff, they're both the same thing. It can have a thrust
Right, a thrust component, yeah.
in it as well. And all the thrust means, all that means it has it's a greater chance of it making a tsunami if there's water involved. Basically.
Right, and generally they do, yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I enjoyed this rabbit hole. I want to encourage everybody to join the rabbit holes when we do them, and you can participate by suggesting rabbit holes that we do, or join it at jsldiscussion@gmail.com. Also, we can see this video on Rumble, or you can see it on YouTube, or it can be a replay on Twitch. So,
And to summarize, because we started out, there's been at least 3 sevens on the Cascadia subduction zone since 1700. So that means before it goes to 8 or 9, it most likely will do 7s before. So that's all the summary is.
right.
So them saying it hasn't done anything since 1700 is not really true.
It's not true.
Yeah,
right.
it's just that it's been doing it with.
And again, dealing with what we talk about often is this is new stuff. It's new thoughts going toward what's been happening in the past. So we're not trying to, recreate the wheel or anything like that, but we're trying to give you an up-to-date kind of
Yeah, we're just
overview.
giving you what the current information is
right.
providing us. So that's not to say there's not going to be 5 new studies come out by the end of this year. That,
Right.
yeah,
They might decide to blow us all out of the water and say change the whole thing and flip it on its ear.
so they might say, well, we're evacuating the West Coast. You can stay
Right.
here.
Right. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, and have fun tomorrow with the kids.
Yeah,
I
because
know-
they're actually arguing about that in Japan right now. If you follow the current, if
Yeah.
they should be evacuating everybody already about Nankai Trough and get them all up out of within so many kilometers of the coast. That's the debate because they just had a drill here.
Just
a
like
couple weeks
the Cascadia, they don't want to build a whole lot on the shores.
And once they're out of
Oregon
there,
and
they're
Washington.
not going back anytime soon. Which is basically what happened with since 2011.
Yeah. Well, they've rebuilt those walls and decided they're going to change up their, seawalls.
So Oregon and Washington could be totally different at the coast. And
Right.
Vancouver, Victoria, and all those places.
Well-
If one of these big ones does happen.
Well, I appreciate you, and have a good one, and big hugs to you, and you can call when you want, when you
Yeah.
get all
I gotta
done.
go now.
Gotta go eat? Yeah, it's that time. I gotta start my barbecue here in an hour. So, big hugs, brother. Love you, everybody. Again, you can find us on twitch.tv/JoelSickLive. Also on Twitch and Rumble. Remember, don't get none on you.
Alrighty.
See you, bud.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Hey there, the name's Joe Slick, can't you see? Citizen journalist, follow me. Rolling 24/7, cameras always live. Chasing the truth.
I don't know if it comes through, but I'm rocking.
Wake up in the morning, it's time to report. 8 a.m. sharp, let's start the sport. From politics to pain, from the streets to the skies. Tune into my channel, don't you dare close your eyes. Journey down the rabbit hole. With Joe Canuck and Luke in control. Every twist and turn we dig for the gold. Holding power accountable, brave and bold. Hey, don't get none on you, just stay awake. Join the ride with us for the truth's sake. Yeah. Join the ride with us for the truth's sake. So many events, so many shows. Wednesdays and Saturdays, that's how it goes. 7 p.m. hits and we're in your face. Breaking down the walls, taking up the space.